All right, all right. We are back in beautiful Belmont, New Jersey at the Grit Won't Quit podcast studio. We have a very special guest on, someone that was on last year who's back this year to talk franchising and the 3 Ps. We have Rich Bruno on this morning. Good morning, Rich. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm
nice
great.
to see you.
Thanks for having me.
You got it. So you were on last year. We talking about the grit and the hustle and all the headaches of owning your own business. And you're back today to talk about the 3 Ps of how you're helping people in their business. So let's get right into it. So what's been going on in the last year? What have we missed?
So in the last year, I've been focusing a lot more on franchise support. And so I do executive coaching, I do business consulting, which is really kind of taking on a more of a life of franchise support and consulting, and I do speaking as well. And so the passion around franchising is my own experience, as you know, as a multi-unit franchisee for 12 years, backed with a long career as a supply chain leader at Johnson & Johnson, and I've been able to kind of parlay the two of those. I've been really fortunate to develop really great skills, and what I'm trying to do is help franchisors and franchisees be more successful. Mm-hmm. So the 3 Ps that you reference are all about the franchise growth formula, is what I call it, mm-hmm. and the 3 Ps are people, processes, and performance. And I like to break it down into those 3 simple elements. There's depth in each of them, but those 3 elements are really, to me, what it's all about to drive success and sustainable success in franchise organizations.
Awesome. And, franchising is very interesting because, Wingman is in the process of franchising. Yes. And we have, a few weeks ago we signed our first franchisee, and we have a few more that are in the hopper to get signed up. So this is going to be a very interesting conversation to me.
Great.
And I think that I think from what I've seen on videos that you've done, as well as chatting with you earlier off camera, a lot of this stuff hits home for me.
Yeah.
In those 3 Ps. So let's start with people, kind of.
Yeah. So people is intentionally first, and people also includes culture. So it's people and culture. People are absolutely any organization's greatest asset, right? So I start there. It's all about the people, right? So if you're a franchisor and you're cultivating, strong franchisees that could potentially be multi-unit franchisees, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, you want them to be successful. You have to start with the vetting process of the franchisee, right? There are so many other elements, but sticking to people, it's about vetting franchisees, and you need to find people who have a diversity of skills. Someone that's not just looking to buy a job. You want them to maybe move from a corporate career to their own entrepreneurship and build that career with a long-term view of how they could support your brand, but also how they could build a very successful business. And to do that, you need a variety of skills. Mm-hmm. And we can go into, I could call out some of them right now. Leadership, starting with leadership. You need to be a really strong business leader, and that means a lot of things. You need to be a good decision maker. You need to have business acumen. You need to be able to be a relationship builder with people. You need to have really a good lens on how to cultivate the right people to bring into your organization or your franchise, right? So you want people who adopt the same values that you have and are willing to collaborate with you to build the brand.
What's interesting on that is when I first went down this path a year ago to start doing the paperwork and everything. Yeah. One of the guys that I'm working with says to me, Tom, you're going to turn down more people than you're going to accept. He said that's going to be the hardest part for you, is that you're going to have to say no to people because they don't fit your culture, your mindset, have the same value system.
Yes.
Which
100%.
When you hear that, it's interesting because when you first start exploring franchising, you're like, is anyone going to buy my franchise? And then when someone says to you, you're going to turn down more people than you're going to say yes to, it really kind of makes you think like, wow,
I think that's a great strategy. So let's build on that. So I've not ever been a franchisor, but I got in on the ground floor of a franchise and saw it grow tremendously and became a multi-unit franchisee over a 12-year period. And what I could tell you is that, it's like a bad hire. If you find the wrong franchisee, someone who is not willing to be an ambassador for your brand, mm-hmm. someone that has the right set of skills and drive, grit. We talked about that last year, to overcome all the challenges that you're going to face as an entrepreneur, and really have a plan that you could map out to be successful for the long term, then you need to walk away from that individual. You really do, because I would say, having a set of criteria, right? So it's a vetting process, like I said, a set of criteria, right? There's the financial piece. Do they have the resources? The people part, are they themselves the right person that could resource the building of a business through other people and working with you, and so on. And sometimes you're going to find that those people are looking to buy a job versus wanting to build a business. And I also think business building should include exit strategy. Right? So if I'm buying into a franchise and I'm committing to 10 years, what am I going to do through those 10 years? And what happens after that 10 years? Am I selling a profitable business? Am I continuing my franchise journey and, renewing my agreement? What is it you're doing? So you need someone that's got that broad range vision of what they see for the future, not only for themselves, but to support your organization.
Yeah. It's interesting, because again, to your point is, well, what is it? Are they just trying to buy a job? Do they have a vision? Do they want to become a multi-unit operator? Because are they looking to bring on some staff? Now, my model is a little bit different than most franchise models. We're going to handle the back end work, so that you don't need to have a graphic design degree, or you don't need to know how to build websites. Once you, as the franchisee, finds a potential customer, you will make the agreement, and then you'll work with our corporate team, our account managers, our designers, our builders, so that you don't have to bring that whole team onto your own payroll. So ours is a little bit different. But on the other side is, we want people that are part of the community, that are going to events, being sponsors at different things, so to get their name out there, to become that wingman of whatever town they're in.
Yeah, great strategy. I think that when it comes to people and leadership, it starts with relationships and communications, right? So you wanted that to spill out to the engagement in the community. When I was a franchisee, I got involved in every event. I knew the local government. I worked closely with them on initiatives. I got involved in charitable activities. And I had a very intimate connection with all the customers we had in our program, right? I think that's super important. Your presence is very important. You mentioned multi-unit franchisees, and I think that's also very important in the people section of our conversation. And so not everyone's going to want to be a multi-unit franchisee. Not everyone's going to be capable of becoming a multi-unit franchisee, because it requires a different set of skills. The leadership gets amped up. So making choices about what you spend time on, who you bring in to clone yourself and maybe the other locations, right? How you spread your time, how you communicate your vision to a broader audience of team members, right? All of that. Not everybody can do that. I would think that a franchisor would want multi-unit franchisees, because they are getting the top rock star, contributors, right, supposedly, if they're successful, and you have less touch points as a franchisor. You could have 300 units, but have 100 franchisees. That's 100 touch points. You're communicating your plans and developing repeatable processes with 100 people, not 300.
But
Big difference.
It's the key is that multi-unit franchisee knows how to manage his 3, 5, 10 locations.
100%.
Because if he doesn't, then you have 10 franchisees that might be doing the wrong thing. Yes. Because that guy in between. And again, I think those multi-unit franchisees need to have a strong management team.
Oh, absolutely.
They need a good director of ops working for their systems to make sure that message from the franchisor that goes to the franchisee gets down to the individual stores.
Yes, and that's the model for franchising, right? So you want a repeatable process, right, that everyone can follow. And all do it the same way, because that's how you show up, and stand with the brand, right? So with multi-unit franchising, I think that it requires a special set of skills, like we said, but I think that's an attractive draw for a franchisor as well.
Yeah. Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
And I think it also for the franchisee who has a multi-unit, once they figure out the system, it's easy to keep continuing to add models. Like we had a Jersey Mike's franchisee on last year, and he said to us he had about 55 stores. And again, they were in areas that were not, contiguous. It wasn't like they were in Belmar and Bradley and Neptune and Wall Township. There was stores in Florida. There was stores in Buffalo, New York.
Yep.
But again, that repeatable process, as long as you can make that work and have good management in between, it makes for.
It does. The process piece is really important. You mentioned that, and I think it graduates over time, right? So when you first start in franchising, you're not all buttoned up on every process. You're developing them. You're partnering with franchisees to expand upon them and really solidify them. But once you refine the processes, it's at that point that you could scale. And that's what the holdback is on scaling. Imagine you have 3 franchise locations and you're doing individual things at each one. You can't repeat that on a scale because you won't have the people resources. You will not physically be able to do it. You need to have something that drives efficiencies and helps you to scale and multiply in a multitude of locations. So the process piece is really, really important. I think the onboarding piece, you mentioned the structure you're going to have. I think the onboarding piece is kind of where it starts. Critically important. Looking at it more from a lens of a franchisee, but having a really robust onboarding process is going to be gold for both the franchisor and franchisee.
Yeah.
Because it's going to help them get off on the right foot, understand where they need their support.
And you want to get off the right, my feeling is you want to get off to the right start from day one so that everybody's marching to the same drum.
You do, because just imagine if you have a weak performing franchisee, not even an intentional thing, just someone who just lacks some of the skills, didn't have that robust onboarding, and isn't prepared to really stand up and grow your franchise business. Well, you know what? The franchisor is going to spend a lot of time with that franchisee because they're going to have to. They're going to have to unless they just want to. They'll end up spending a lot of time with, I don't want to say bottom feeders, but the ones that are poor performers. And that's absolutely what you don't want.
Yeah.
It takes you all the way back to the vetting process. It starts there.
So now let's get to the second P.
Yeah. Well, the processes we touched on a little bit. I think the important point about processes is that without it, you can't scale. That's the simple punchline right there. Without the processes, you can't scale. So infrastructure from a franchise organization to help the franchisee execute point of sale, sales functions, marketing, all of that, really, really important. Even day-to-day operational activities, right? How you're running your day-to-day operation, I think, is very, very important. And then you can refine that and get better and better. But you need the process support to enable the scaling of that growth. And that's all I'll say about that. We can go deep on that, but it's the people, the processes that get developed over time, I think starting with the onboarding of the franchisees, and then performance is the last P, and we can certainly get into that. That's critically important as well.
And I think the performance is, again, for a franchisee, I think it's setting up those KPIs to understand what those key performance indicators, key performance, is, so that they know where they're going to be successful and where the pitfalls are and how to run it. To your point, you came from corporate America. You spent a lot of time in organizational success and working within teams. But some people that are franchisors, either they're young and they came out of college, or they didn't go to college, and they just have a dream to be a business owner. And again, I think there's that glorification about being the business owner. There's a TikTok out there right now, and it shows like where people are like in their process, and it's like, you see the boss and you think he walks in and, someone's just handing him a coffee and meanwhile he's carrying boxes in. Again, for a small business owner, it's a whole different world than I think people imagine it is.
Oh, no doubt. So I've referred to this many times before, and it's you're wearing a lot of hats.
Yeah.
Right? So you've got to really be able to roll up your sleeves and do every job and be humble enough to do every job and be really lean. Because you need to manage through when do I become cash flow positive? When am I starting to see net profit? And you need to realize the benefits of your investment and recognize it's going to take time. So you're cutting your costs. You're not building a team. You're doing more of the things yourself. And I think actually there's a real value in that. Like I found I did every job. I signed people up to be members. I went into the community. I ran the day-to-day operation. I instructed. I did everything that was part. Why? I wanted to know what it took so that when I built the team, I knew what I wanted them to do. I could model it for them. I know what good looks like, right? So by doing it myself. And I also think it shows as a great role model that you're willing to do whatever it takes. And I think that's a real message and a core value that anyone that you surround yourself with, you want to have as well. Mm-hmm. So I think you've got to be willing to do anything that it takes and more. And you'll run into a lot of pitfalls you don't even expect, and you got to be able to overcome them as well.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point. And again, if you can tell people's character right away if if they don't do some of those things. And we're actually building a questionnaire to see if people are good franchisees. Yep. And again, there's questions that how they answer will tell you if again when it's time to get going, like that'll be the answer.
Yeah. Yes, you know what? It's having that grit, right, and the perseverance that we talked about last time. But that's a very important attribute. I think whenever you look at bringing people into your organization, you're vetting, it's not just about the pedigree, the functional competencies. Yeah. They have a finance background, they have this, they have that. There'll be certain criteria you'll want them to have, and I think it definitely leadership would be one of those as an entrepreneur. But you could learn some of the other things that you're not a master at, but you've got to have the soft skills and that willingness to do whatever you need to do. And if you don't have that, it's probably not for you.
No, if you don't have the hustle, at that point, you could teach a lot of the other skills. You could teach someone how to sell. You could teach someone some of the creatives. But you can't teach someone to just show up. You can't teach someone to open the door for somebody. Either you have it or you don't have it.
You need to go in as a problem solver. Like, okay, I have this challenge. I'm a problem solver. I got this. And the confidence, too, that helps. So, you're absolutely right. And the performance piece you were talking about before, again, I was blessed with, having a long career where that's what we did. I mean, I knew good or bad right off the bat because we had goals that we had really robust goals that we wrote, tracked. We had business metrics, and we had, all the dashboards that said, how are we doing? And that's what you look at entrepreneurship and even franchising as a franchisor or franchisee. There are going to be key metrics that are going to drive, your actions, your decisions, and you're going to know how you're doing. And if you don't pay attention to those things, that's a terrible, terrible mistake. That's going to be really, from a franchising standpoint, from a franchisee standpoint, it's going to be very important to know those critical metrics that tell you how you're doing so that you can react to things if they're not going well and you can course correct, right? And so there should be a simple set of top tier metrics. I think that some people make a mistake of measuring too many things.
Yeah.
Like, you can't get paralyzed by the data either.
That's a corporate America.
Yeah, that's a corporate America thing. You need to find those simple metrics that tell you how you're doing and that can drive an action. And don't overdo it. Just use those top few, and that varies by industry, by business, all of that.
I look at it very simple. It's if you have a slow sales month, it's really like in a month or two that you have the problem. So I look at a few levers for myself, and I'll say, all right, well, if this happens in, let's just call it August, well, in October is where we're going to see the problem.
Yes.
But not everybody sees that. No. So, but again, it takes time. It takes you have to go through these cycles.
You do,
and you have to learn from them. But and also it's in my world, it's recurring versus one time.
Yes.
Again, I could build somebody a website one time. You do the job versus the recurring work. Well, if someone needs social media, well, they need it every month. They don't just need it 1 month.
Yes.
So, and I think that's one advantage our franchise system will offer is, that recurring revenue piece.
Yeah.
So again, guys that aren't true salesmen can still do well at this because as long as they can offer value and again the Wingman team puts out a good product for them on the social side or on the pay-per-click side or the SEO side. That's an ongoing monthly recurring service, and so that they again I want them to grow their business and go out there and meet new people and make new connections, but it'll help them versus some of these franchises where it's a service and then you're done, and you don't have that recurring aspect.
Yeah, I know you're going through all the startup kind of exploratory stages. I think that what you have as a great asset is you have an established business and process for 15 plus years.
Yeah.
That's very attractive. You're not, oh, I want to start this new type of business and I want to sell X number of units in a small period of time. That's the other thing. I think that, not advising on your franchising model, but to say that I've met a lot of people in franchising, especially over the last 6 months. And one of the things that really stuck with me the most are the leaders and the CEOs of franchise organizations who have said, I have a deliberate path to growth. And I had one person in particular in June said to me, I have 3 more that I want to open this year. Not, I have to sell 20, because then you run into that, how am I supporting the franchisee?
You can't.
Right? You have to be very careful about the roadmap and the process you follow going forward, because you can get caught up in not being able to support the franchisees, and that's a death spiral.
Yep. Like I said to you off camera, my idea is at the beginning that it has to be drivable. It has to be drivable to get to the franchisee, so that we can just, if there's a problem or someone needs help, or they need our support on, to meet somebody, that, me, Dave, Chelsea, one of us can get in the car and go. Yeah. And, be back at the end of the day, so that, like, we're home with our families at, in the evening. So, that is an important aspect for us to start with. And as we grow, that aspect's going to change. But at that point, you're going to bring on a franchise director, and you're going to bring on training people, and you're going to bring in other people depending on the regions you're in. Yes. But, I think at the get-go, one of the things that was important to me was, let's make sure that we're drivable. Let's make sure we're 4 hours.
Strategy. Yeah.
4 hours away.
Yep. It's similar to like real estate investing, right? Local versus, having a unit that you have as a recurring income, 1,000 miles away.
Yeah. So I think that that's important, and I think that that's something that I want to make sure that we, that we hold to our values on, so that we get those first initial ones going, get them successful, get them to be a playbook. Again, my playbook works, and I know it works, and we've done it in 2 locations, but it works because, right now it works because I've done it, and I know how to do it, but I need to teach guys how to do it. Absolutely. Again, I know it works, it's proven, but we have to now get other people to replicate, take that playbook, work with it, run with it, make it repeatable.
Yeah. And I think continuous connections with your franchising team, the franchisees, is critically important as well, because that goes back to the people and culture, right? Yep. You want to have that really strong connection with them, so you can collaborate, take in their ideas, see what's working, what's not working, how can I help you, kind of thing. So this is now on a much broader scale for you, because you're going from 2 to however many you build, but that's really an important element. I think that's something that franchisees really look for. I'm not saying do the work for them. They have to recognize that it's their business, but having that support and the relationship is really, really helpful.
That's great. That's great. I love this conversation, and I could talk about it all day long, because, it's something that we're, doing. But this is great. I'm glad that you came back in.
Yes,
I'm glad
me
that
too.
you got to talk about this. So as we wrap up today, let people know where they can find you online, on social, so that anyone who's interested in learning more about the 3 Ps or consulting and speaking, that they can reach out to you.
Well, thanks so much. I absolutely will do that. So, Rich Bruno Consulting is my website, richbrunoconsulting.com, and there is, in particular for franchising, a franchise development tab, which talks to these 3 Ps. Mm-hmm. It also talks about from idea to impact, which is like the early stage entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. And then it's scaling for growth. It's not the name for it. The growth leap is what it's called. So there are 3 main elements on the franchise development tab. It talks a little bit about my story and experiences and the important areas for franchisors and franchisees to focus on. But it's got those 3 pillars. The franchise growth formula, from idea to impact, which is early stage entrepreneurs, and the growth leap, which is more about the skills for multi-unit franchisees and the leadership attributes they need to have. So that's a place you could definitely learn more about that. I also do executive coaching and speaking. I do want to definitely plug a community that I'm standing up now. I think it's really important that people can connect, and I want to do something that can bring value to people. So I'm setting up a leadership forum. It's called the Executive Leadership Growth Forum, and probably going to kick it off in the very near future, probably late next month, September, and it's going to be free for people to come in and for the purposes of networking and education. It's going to be focused on driving organizational and business results through leadership excellence. So I'm going to have a criteria for people that join, C-suite leaders in corporate organizations, owners and founders of businesses with certain credentials. But I'm really excited to bring that. I think just the connection piece is going to be huge. I'm looking forward to facilitating that, and I want to make sure that it's value add to the people who join. It'll be a monthly cadence. It is free, and it's with the intent of adding value. I want people coming in that are willing to give value and learn and share. And so I'm going to be standing that up very soon on Eventbrite through LinkedIn, a LinkedIn group, and look forward to getting people to join that as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming in. I look forward to hearing more about this new group and continue doing great things.
Thank you so much for having me, Tom.
It's great to see you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.